I apologize for the wait. Josh, you've got a short bill. What we're going to do is just go ahead and hear the bills, and when we get to quorum, we'll vote it. You've got in front of you House Bill 632.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I've got Mark Demers here with me from the Department of Veteran Services. This bill came at the request of the department, and it is simply a bill to clarify our code, and it relates to the exemptions of occupational tax and licenses for our disabled veterans. It updates that code. There was apparently some confusion across the state with some of our probate judges. This clarifies the language and also updates the periods of war or armed conflict so that more of our veterans can qualify for this exemption. But the end result of this legislation, Mr. Chairman, is that more of our disabled veterans will benefit from these exemptions of their occupational tax and license
Good,
fees.
Bill. Any of the committee members have a question? Any committee? Well, and now the damn mic don't work. Is this working? Hit the volume up. There you go. There you go. All right, any committee members have any questions? That's a pretty straightforward, simple bill. Yeah. You can go on to whatever you need to be at, and I apologize for that.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're having to wait. Yours is going to be pretty drawn out, isn't it?
I'll draw it out as long as you want.
No. Mr. Corbin in here? All right. We'll get a couple of these short ones out of the way real quick while we're waiting. We've had a bill that was recommitted back to the committee, House Bill 185. Ms. Earhart, tell us what the little...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, you'll recognize HB 185. We are now working off of a substitute, LC 520820S. It is back for because of one technical error and one minor change. I'll draw your attention to lines 363 through 369. The original bill had some outdated language, FBI language as relates to fingerprinting and licensing. This was caught in rules, and I'm appreciative for that. So it has been replaced with updated language, FBI language on lines 363 to 369. That is the technical error. And then we have made one addition on lines 519 through 521. We had a special request from the Department of Public Health to exempt the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children, otherwise known as WIC. They asked for an exemption from this bill, which we were happy to grant. Otherwise, the bill remains unchanged other than those two edits. So if I would ask for your favorable consideration and hope that we can move it right on back to rules.
Any of the committee members have a question about these technical changes? All right. Well, that's another one out of the way. If we get another crowd in here. Let's see. Beg your pardon?
What about 512?
512 is not a quick bill. Is someone going to speak on Mr. Horner's bill?
I can. No, I can't.
You can if you would like.
Good bill, we should pass it.
You're recognized.
All right. I'm just find it. I don't know what the actual change is.
342.
Gracias. All right. I think it's the same bill as he presented before. It's just letting the billboards be put up for medical marijuana. It says the commission shall promulgate the rules and regulations governing the advertising and marketing of the low THC oil or products licensed to ensure that such marketing and advertising does not include medical claims or unsupported or by reliable scientific evidence. I think that's the only thing that's been done to it.
Do you have any questions from any of the committee members? All right, you did a good job. We'll just keep moving along till one more member shows up. While you're on the hot streak, do you want to do Mr. Monahan's bill?
Sure. You go down there and do it? I'm gonna have to have
You can sit in your chair if you want to.
Okay, I got some backup out here too, I might need to.
Well, you can see.
Okay, don't do it. I'm hot. All right, Mr. Chairman, you'll probably be able to understand me more than the author of the bill. I'm going to present House Bill 504 for Representative Monahan because he had to go to judiciary. House Bill 504 is a critical step towards ensuring consumer protection and market competitiveness in Georgia's automobile industry. The legislation introduced a structured and transparent framework for vehicle value protection agreements. We're going to call those VVPAs, a financial tool designed to help consumers mitigate unexpected losses in vehicle value. The reason we're doing 504 today is today's volatile vehicle market. Consumers face significant financial risk, whether due to depreciation, accidents, or total loss. Vehicle owners often experience an unexpected gap between the vehicle's value and the remaining loan balance or trade-in amount. Unlike traditional gap insurance, which only applies to financed vehicles, VVPAs are available for both financed and cash purchased vehicles, giving consumers more options to protect their investment. Currently, several neighboring states, including Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, and Texas, allow these agreements, giving their consumers access to traditional financial security. By passing this legislation, Georgia ensures that our residents are not at a competitive disadvantage and have access to the same consumer protections and financial tools as those in other states. Some of the key provisions in 504, it defines the vehicle protection VVPAs as a voluntary, that's the key word, it is a voluntary optional contract offered by dealerships and financial institutions to consumers. It mandates strong consumer protection, which is great for all of Georgians, including clear disclosures of agreements and terms, benefits, eligibility, and refund policies. Also, it requires provisions to maintain financial security, ensuring that the consumers receive the benefits they are entitled to under these agreements. It also grants consumers rights, including a 30-day free look period for a full refund. I want to repeat that. That's a 30-day free look period for a volunteer type VVPA, and you get a full refund if you choose not to do this. It also prohibits predatory practices, ensuring that financing is not contingent upon purchasing a VVPA, preventing unfair pressures on consumers. And it also empowers state oversight, allowing the Attorney General to take enforcement actions against providers that violate these regulations. 504 is a Georgia consumer pro-business bill. By regulating these agreements, we provide certainty and security to Georgia vehicle buyers, allowing them to recover value in cases of loss, theft, damage, or depreciation. With record high vehicle prices and unprecedented market fluctuations, this bill helps keep Georgians on the roads, reduces financial hardships, ensures fair and competition with other states. Mr. Chairman, this is House Bill 504.
Questions of the billion for y'all? Questions for Toby Croft? Where do y'all come up with all these clients? Well, that's all insurance policy because being upside down.
Well, it's funny that you asked that, Mr. Chairman.
Committee members. No questions?
Nope.
All right.
We pass this one out.
Leave, Toby, please, quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We're going to get to the last number before, but.
We'll see how it goes. Whichever, at your pleasure. And Did I hear 6:30? You want that first? Your members have asked for 6:30, but Mr. Chairman, I'll present whichever you'd like. Let's do 6:30 just for the fun of it. All right. I want to start off by saying, so the two measures, both 630 and 635, are two of three bills that have come out of the Blue Ribbon Committee over the summer. We spent a lot of time going around the state dealing with all the licensure issues that have been going on that plague most of our emails. We get a lot of constituent requests and issues with licensure. So this has come from that. Obviously, Chairman Matt Hatchett, Chairman Tillery, Larry Walker, Amy Dorman from the Governor's Office, David Hartman from the analyst. A lot of people have put a lot of time into all this to really streamline things so that we can keep Georgians working. So 630, HB 630, LC 550575S, excuse me. We'll go through as briefly as I can. Obviously, a lot of things.
5575S.
All right. Oh, 550575S. All right. Real quickly, as we start out in the definitions, it defines division director on line 1617. On 25 and 26, revise the definition of established place of business. Moving on to multiple lines ranging from lines 25 through 430, you'll see combining the two divisions of the board. Again, trying to streamline the process. Again, part of this is we've had issues filling boards for various licensure things, not just this one. So you'll see in a lot of these bills where like on line 54 through 68, where we're decreasing the size of the board. Eliminate some board seats. The board will go from 14 members to 9 members. We'll discuss that in a minute. We're going to make a friendly amendment to 10, but right now, as it's written, what you're looking at goes from 14 to 9. Moving down, 69 through 74, just cleans up some outdated information regarding the initial appointments of the board. 75-76 removes the cap on the number of board members that may be appointed from a single congressional district. The division director, this partners with HB 590 to give PLB, the division director, the authority to administer license to applicants. Again, it's been getting these licenses to applicants has been bogged down through the process of issuing from the board level as opposed from the district level, and then just essentially being reviewed by the board. This gets people to work quicker. Powers and duties of the board, if you look at lines 137, 138, it just codifies the language from the Georgia Supreme Court's decision of Jackson versus Raffensperger. 157 to 158 authorizes the board to establish minimum requirements and standards for established place of business, further defining that. Licensing requirements, if you look at 177 through 266, this is just restructures the requirements to enhance clarity and usability for the applicants. Again, trying to streamline this for folks so that it's not so cumbersome. Lost my place here, sorry, y'all. Temporary sites allows, on lines 270 through 271, allows the fee for a temporary site permit to be set through the board rule. Moving on, change of location license, lines 283 through 291. This bill authorizes the board and division director to establish fees for change of location licenses. Lines 380 through 381 allows the board to discipline licensees who fail to submit a change of location application. Moving on, so that kind of concludes section 1. Again, these bills, we've been trying to catch all the different boards, all the different licenses. So in section 2, you'll see behavior analysts. It just adds qualified applied behavior analyst credentialing board as an accrediting board for the practice of applied behavior analysts. That is the crux of the bill. Certainly will do my best to stand for any questions. If I'm stumped, I will phone a friend.
Questions from the committee? Wow, what a day we're having.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I mentioned apologize, want to point to a couple of lines here. Again, I mentioned in the run-through that if you look at line 54, please, you'll see 9 members. In talking with the industry, we're making a few quick adjustments. On line 54, it'd be a friendly amendment to change that from 9 to 10. And then on line 63, oh, I moved the wrong. No, I got the wrong one. Sorry. Give me a second. Sorry. 58 is shifting lines for me. Hold on. Yes, so on, 58, changing 9 to 10. The renumbering. And then on line 68, the first word "to" would be changed to 3. And we would be striking "or rebuilders." So those, lines 58, changing 9 to 10, and line 68, changing 2 to 3, and striking "or rebuilders." That would be a friendly amendment to this.
So we're going to a joint board now
Yes,
with
sir.
10 members,
Yes, sir.
even members.
That was the, yes, sir. That is the request.
Yep.
Currently it's even as well at 14.
All right. If you look online, if I might, if you look on line 62, 63, this is saying that that this board would set the minimum lot size and standard for the establishment of a place of business. This would be for a used car lot and/or parts business.
I apologize. Repeat your line numbers. I think I might be off here.
162,
162, excuse me.
162, 163.
What was the question again? Now I'm on the right line.
All right, if I'm reading this correctly, this gives the authority to the board to set the minimum size requirements and standards for an established place of business.
Yes, sir.
This would be for a used car lot
Yes, sir.
and/or. And I would like to, would you consider an amendment and lot size? Once upon a time, used car dealers, not only did they have to have a square footage, they had to have a lot size.
If it's the pleasure of the committee, but I would also yield to the opinion of somebody that's worked very hard on this. If there is dissent in that, I'm sure that Ms. Amy Dorman will speak up, but I don't, if it's the pleasure of the board, I'm okay, or committee, I'm okay with that.
Who?
Amy Dorman in the governor's office, I believe she's here in the crowd. If she doesn't like that, I'm sure we'll hear about it.
Is she?
I feel like that's covered in a different bill that's come up this session, without adding that, but.
Come on up.
You added that in our bill.
Yeah, so there was another bill, that it was in a different code section, but we did address lot size, but I want to make sure, I think it might be a little bit repetitive, but if we.
I do feel that that is covered in a separate bill, that's come before this committee, I do believe. And so we did not add it into this, but if that is, if y'all would want to do that,
Would it make
would
any
consider it,
difference?
but we don't want it to have implications, adding that into here, negative implications on the used parts dealers who don't require, that issue would not pertain to the parts dealers specifically, so it would probably need to be in a separate definition.
All right, number 26.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was kind of my question that I was going to ask is used part dealer could be a junkyard, which could be 20 acres, 30 acres of cars, that all of those are used parts that they either you go in and get them off a car, or they already have them, in a building that you go into. So that was my only concern is the used car, the junkyard type business being the used car dealer, parts dealer.
All right.
Yeah, this is currently the definition as it stands, that is pertaining currently to the used parts and the used car dealer. We just added in the provision to allow for the definition to kind of take over any rules that the board does decide to create in regards to that, kind of as in helping combat the TOPS issue. Obviously, this is not what that bill is designed to do, but hoping that if we made, a couple of changes here and there, that it would help
All right.
partner with that.
All right, do we have any other questions from any of the committee members? Since this bill did not go through the subcommittee, is there anyone here wish to be heard on this matter? All right, it's amazing. All right. Did I understand you did have an amendment you wanted to make into this bill? And that was one to increase it to 10?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Let me get that back from you.
You would state,
Yeah, 58.
you would state your amendment to our council.
Yes, sir, and I believe I've shared this with council prior to the meeting to make sure that we were clear, but I did hand him, I think I did take a picture of the old LC. But on line 58, the last word, 9, would be changed to 10. And on line 68, the first word would change from 2 to 3, and then the last 2 words would be struck, which is or rebuilders.
All right. All right, what's the will of the committee? We have a motion do pass. We have a second. All right, with a motion and a second, do I hear a motion to accept the amendment? We have a motion to amend, and we have a second on that. All in favor of amending at the 2 spots mentioned? All right. Opposed? Back to the full body of the bill. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? You clearly have it. You're done on that one. Now we're going to move to 635 now.
Yes, sir.
All right. This is your home builder, but your builder.
Residential and general contractors, or residential and commercial general contractors, yes, sir. LC 550546. For those of you who weren't here, I will save the accolades of everybody that's working on licensure over the summer, but still applies here. Walking through the bill swiftly, but on line 38, just eliminates the term limits for board members. This again is realigning and streamlining and getting rid of cumbersome stuff, licensure issues for the Residential Commercial General Contractors Licensing Board. Lines 48 and 62 expands eligibility for public building official position. The examination on lines, several different lines, 92, 93, 185, 222, 226, 238, eliminates the prior authorization requirement examination. Then on 259 and 266, it removes the limit of number of exam attempts the applicant can take. Figured if they want to keep studying, they can keep taking the test and eventually obtain licensure. On residential basic licensure, it'll eliminate the subjective experiential language in the licensing requirements. It will require the applicant's employer or supervisor to sign an affidavit attesting to their experience, and it widens the scope of qualified eligible experience. Residential light commercial. For folks that aren't in the industry, each one of these residential basic, you can build houses. Residential light commercial, you can build commercial up to a certain size, and then ultimately going on to general contractor. So we'll get to those in a minute. But residential light commercial, again, it kind of rebrands how we do the pathways to licensure examination. First is in education. Applicants who hold a bachelor's degree in construction-related fields such as engineering, architecture, construction management, etc., are all allowed to take this examination. Removes the additional requirement of 1 year work experience with that degree. There's a hybrid. Applicants may satisfy the licensure requirements by combining verifiable work experience and academics. Lines 130, 132 clarifies the subject matter of the college-level courses that will qualify for this pathway. On 135 to 137, it widens the scope of the qualified eligible experience. 139, 142 requires the applicant's employer or supervisor to sign an affidavit attesting to that experience. Another way is experiential. The lines 146 to 148 requires the applicant's employer or supervisor to sign an affidavit attesting to their experience. Lines 149 and 151 eliminates the requirement that applicants demonstrate sufficient responsibility for successful performance of completion of 2 projects. This provision has been removed due to its subjective nature, essentially. Commercial general contractor, defining the pathways to licensure by examination. Education, again, it removes the year work experience. If you have certain degrees, you can qualify for this. Hybrid, very similar. You can have, again, college-level courses as well as qualified eligible experiences, and again, requires the applicant's employer to sign off. Experiential, same thing, requires the applicant's employer to sign off. That's on line 182 to 184. And prohibits any licensed contractor from knowingly entering into agreements that allow an unlicensed individual or an unauthorized business entity to use their contractor license. That's on 342 to 346. That is the crux of this, and certainly stand for any questions.
Questions from the committee? Do we have any questions? Anybody in the audience? Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is around line 342, Mr. Chairman. And it says there, if the agreement, whether oral or written. How can you prove an oral agreement? All the specifics? How is that upheld in the court of law? Because when it's in writing, it's in writing.
So this is referring to is prohibiting people from using. So I'll tell you what occurred, and you may know this. I apologize if but for members of the committee, what happens is I get licensed, and then somebody's like, "Hey, man, you just pull this permit for me," right? So it's just prohibiting. Basically, what we're saying is, if somebody walks onto a site, and my friend Al here is doing work, and he says, "Well, Marcus said I could use his license." We don't have to prove that. We don't have to have that in writing, right? I'm not on site. I'm not the contractor. Clearly, I'm not involved in the project. But Representative Williams is, it prohibits me from even orally telling him, hey, man, go work, I'll pull the license. So it allows somebody to come in and say, you cannot, Representative Williams cannot operate under a license when I have no supervision over him or what have you. So we're trying to actually make that a little bit broader, so somebody's not utilizing somebody else's license in an unprofessional and unlicensed way.
Mr. Chairman, follow up.
Sorry.
So, with this oil agreement, is a handshake required?
I understand where you're going with the line of questioning. My point is it would be hard, you're right, it would be hard to argue this, right? In the sense of, I could then slide him a piece of paper, right, if I'm trying to keep us both out of trouble, right? But it's saying I can't even do that. So regardless of what arrangement we have, whether it's oral or written, we're simply saying you can't engage in that kind of activity where somebody else is actively using me just merely to pull a license.
So 30, 40 years ago, oral agreements make sense 30, 40 years ago. But today, where a lot of things, a lot of evidence have to be presented in the court of law, it's just hard for me to say, Representative Billy Mitchell just leaned over and said, hey, we're going to go into an agreement. And I said, okay, all right. And I really didn't understand what he was talking about. And then something happens in liability, and he said, hey, you agreed to it. I just want to make sure that as we're writing here, and because I like the bill, but I'm not getting a warm and fuzzy, and that's hard for a military man not to get a warm and fuzzy.
This is merely addressing the unauthorized use of a contractor's license.
I understand.
So, I
But
guess
there's a scope
and
to
again,
this.
and we might be able to lean on ledge counsel in this because I'm not an attorney and I would not be litigating this either, right?
Right.
But what I would contend is that I think we're trying to leave that specific verbiage broad because we don't want any individual to have unauthorized use of a contractor license. So we're trying to kind of cast the net wide if I'm allowing somebody to utilize a license that is potentially is not qualified to utilize that license.
Okay.
I mean, I think the intent is to catch more bad actors, not make it vague.
Right. No, I agree. And also for writing, does that include text messaging?
I would think I'm not a lawyer. He's nodding. I believe that would be in writing, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
The way I'm reading this, that would be what's prohibited by saying it just catches them in the net on the oral. It's the negative, if you read the whole section, these are the prohibitions. And it basically says knowingly enter into a contractual agreement, whether oral or written. It's sort of catching them in a net. Number 26.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Under the argument of oral agreement, what if you're in a video conference or you're being videoed and you become into an oral agreement and it's on video that you could submit if there was ever an issue? I was trying to find a way to.
I would contend that, I mean, that's just another medium, another opportunity. I think, again, this is trying to catch any and all agreement, basically, is what this is saying. And maybe that's what it should say, maybe any and all, because the reality is it's any and all, right? It is, whether it's written, oral, or other, they're prohibiting the use of an unauthorized use of someone else's license. So I don't know, we can ask. I mean,
Again, I'll say that if you look at that whole section, these are prohibitions. These are things that catch you. So it's saying that you can't enter into an oral or written if it's authorized. All right. Questions from the committee? Mr. Woodall, would you like to say a word of blessing on this?
We're very much in favor of the measure. We had the opportunity to work with the governor's office on it, and it is a problem in our industry. Some members, some participants in the industry sell their license to other folks that aren't properly licensed. Well, that should be stopped.
And would you consider this to be an upgrade to the current statute?
Sorry?
Would Would you consider this to be an upgrade to the current statute to move it forward?
We're very much in favor of the measure. We had the opportunity to work with the governor's office.
I sure am glad that I didn't have to do this one this time. All right. Do I see any other members that want to ask a question? Do we have anyone here that wants to testify since this bill was not heard in the subcommittee? Seems to me like things are pretty well. What's the will of the committee? We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any motions for amendments? We don't. If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? And the ayes have it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
All right. All right, now that we have a quorum, we're going to take care of a little business since everybody was a little bit lengthy drawing in. House Bill 504, we've already heard the bill minus one of the members. Would you like to, who was it spoke on this bill? And just don't read it again, Lauren. Just say real quick what it does.
Basically, House Bill 504, it simply creates a legal regulatory framework for the VVAPA protection to exist. It protects the investment made in a vehicle by covering the difference between the vehicle's original purchase price and its depreciated value at the time of loss.
Very good. That's close enough. All right. Do we have any questions from the committee members? If not, what's the will of the committee? We have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. We have a second. Any proposed motion, any proposed amendments? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? The ayes have it. All right, Mr. Horner's bill, House Bill 342. Mr. Ridley, make it quick.
All right. What they've done is they've made the
Which is your number down there now?
27.
All right.
All right. So basically what they've done on this bill is just put it under the commission that they should promulgate the rules and regulations for the advertising and marketing low THC oil or products. And this does not include any medical claims or unsupported reliable scientific evidence.
No snake oil claims.
That's right.
All right. Any questions from the committee? If not, what's the will of the committee? We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any other further motions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Ayes clearly have it. House Bill 632. Chairman Bonner had this bill a few minutes ago. Any questions from the committee? This clarifies the language about the vets. All right. If not, what's the will of the committee? We have a motion. We have a second. Any further motions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Let's see. We had House Bill 185. Ms. Earhart that had a couple of minor changes. This was recommitted from rules to make these two changes quickly.
We just updated the fingerprint language in this bill because it was outdated. We needed to go with the definition as described by the language that the FBI uses. Second change was to create a carve-out, an exception for WIC, as was requested by the Department of
Not to put the SNAP program in jeopardy.
That's right.
All right. Any questions of the committee? If not, what's the will of the committee? We have a motion to pass. Second? We have a second. Any further motions, questions, comments? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Now we have now caught up. Chairman Corbett has a joint study committee on State Board of Used Car Dealers and Used Motor Vehicle Parts. It's a joint committee to look at all of the things that are going on out there. This is typical of all joint committees. Any questions on this bill? No questions? What's the motion?
Motion to pass.
We have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any questions about this joint study committee? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That one's out of the way. Now we're down to Ms. Lewis Ward. Is she here? You know, this all made it pretty simple with nobody showing up on time. We could just move right through them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the full committee. I'm here to present House Bill 512, LC number 501035. This bill was brought about from having conversations with the professionals in the real estate industry and also homeowners across the state of Georgia. What it basically does, it provides some homeowners peace and assurance that the HOAs are not their enemies. And this bill was presented in subcommittee, and I'll just go very quickly because I know we're pressed for time over what the bill is seeking to do. It's seeking to provide alternate dispute resolutions for property owners before liens can be placed on their property. And it ensures that HOA has reasonable financial demands when asking for a closing letter. That's basically what this bill does.
All right.
Mr. Chair, there's no question about it that the homeowners associations have extraordinary powers in the state, a state where it is extremely easy to foreclose as well. I think the presenter presented to subcommittee and made some meaningful changes to appeal to both sides on this issue. And at the appropriate time, I'd like to move to pass.
Did I understand you say that the subcommittee made some changes?
She made some presentations to the subcommittee chair, as I understand it, that was amenable.
In subcommittee, it was asked to provide some information from regarding the bill, and I believe it's included in the packages that you have. You have letters from the professionals in the real estate industry as well as homeowners about their experience.
But there hadn't been any changes made to the bill because we're dealing.
No changes to the bill, just provide the documentation that was requested.
All right, Mr. Washburn.
Thank you, Representative Lewis Ward, for bringing the bill. And I've had some conversation with you. We met several months ago to talk about these issues. The first question is, can you just, I know you've had a lot of complaints from a lot of people over the years about this. Can you kind of summarize some of that a little bit?
Absolutely.
And you have some evidence in your file, or your packet.
Some of the complaints that I have received from homeowners selling their property as well as realtors in the industry is that when a homeowner sells their property, the closing attorney or the mortgage institution needs a letter saying that the property is free of any assessments. They request that letter from the HOAs. The HOAs will, in fact, invoice the property owners before they can issue that letter. And those invoices have been $400, $500. There's no cap on it, and this bill sets the cap at $250 for the homeowner to pay for a closing letter.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Actually, another question. Representative, one of the things in looking at the bill and some comments by some of the other subcommittee, actually the subcommittee chairman had mentioned to me, the list of the statement of account and the long detail that is there and different items there. And maybe we talked about that at one point, is the details, why is that list as detailed as it is?
That's the information that, again, the closing attorney or the mortgager, the person providing the mortgage will need so they can be satisfied that there are no encumbrances on the property, so they can have a clean transfer of the property.
follow up, Mr. Chairman. So that is what the closing attorneys
That's what they
have
would require.
sort of specified to
Absolutely.
you then? Okay.
All right. Number 27.
Yes, sir. This kind of my subcommittee, and it's so detailed. That's the reason I said that I kind of told them just do a hearing only on it. I just think it needs to be littler bites. I think you're going to get everybody way confused as much as it is. I mean, if you, just from a layman person like me, if you look at it, it looks like you need a full-time attorney in each one of these HOAs to be able to meet all these demands and stuff like that. So I was just trying to get them to work together, try to come up with some smaller things to come up with, to do a little bit at a time.
Mr. Chairman, this is what's happening in current practice now. The current statute is, the maximum is $10 that they can charge, but what happens, because there is such a detail that the closing attorney or the mortgage company wants, they keep adding on the different fees for the invoice.
Okay.
So in current practice, this is what they're providing now.
What, and the other issue is part of this has already been vetoed by the governor before, part of the bill, where it was setting some prices and stuff for what the attorneys could charge and that kind of stuff.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, what?
So back in 2018, yes, this bill, a similar bill was presented and it was vetoed. And one of the comments that why it was vetoed was because the cap was set at $150 for a closing letter. And that was one of the lowest amounts in the country for a closing letter.
And y'all raised it to $250?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Chairman Ridley, I had asked about that as well, and I didn't realize that he had, I was trying to ask, could we make it even lower? And I did not realize until you just said that the government vetoed it because of the other.
It was too low.
I was unaware of that, but I had asked her about the idea of us trying to lower that even further, because a lot of the complaints we've had over the years is these HOAs just using this as a big revenue producer, and so I was interested in trying to lower it even more. I appreciate you letting me know that about the governor vetoing that.
I know a little bit about this bill since I believe I was the one to pass that bill that got vetoed.
I got to run that ways.
If I might ask a question, you have, where do you have explained in here and on your lines about alternative resolutions to disputes?
Lines 152 through 172, 152 through 172, it actually leaves the control at the HOA level so that they can decide their own procedures.
Very good. All right. Number 17, Mr. Mitchell.
You know, Mr. Chairman, it's no question about it. The most egregious portion of the current law that Representative Lewis Ward seeks to correct is this notion of homeowners associations being able to foreclose for not paying fines and the like. So your grass can be too high, you get into a dispute with them, they fine you, and then they put a lien and subsequently foreclose on your property. I might add that Georgia is in a very small minority of states that allow that. Then when you add to the fact that Georgia is a non-judicial foreclosure state, meaning, you know, technically, if they wanted to be egregious, they can take your house in 30 days in Georgia. When you sign up for a mortgage, in there it says if you miss a payment, they can take your home without taking you to court. Generally, the average in Georgia is about 4, maybe 5 months if you get into very difficulty. In states like New York, it's 2.5 years. Simply because not only is it a judicial state, you go before an elected judge, give them your story, when you lose as a result of your foreclosure, they have what they call tenants' rights in Georgia, and then they have to comply with tenant law. Consequently, in New York, if you get behind, hundreds of people from the bank are calling you to work something out, to work out a deal, work out some kind of compromise or forbearance. Whereas in Georgia, you repeatedly hear you get behind in your mortgage, and it's tough to get someone on the bank, or the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. I say we should come into the 20th century and join the majority of states and don't allow foreclosures for not paying a fine. Now, you can put a lien, and when you sell that home, you've got to satisfy that lien in order to transfer ownership. I think that's what the representative is trying to accomplish. Perhaps the chair or someone else wishes to make some motions.
I don't think that's what this is doing.
Yeah.
There's nothing in here that stops them from foreclosing. This basically provides an alternative dispute resolution process. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it's also dealing with these exorbitant
Fees for the closing
fees
letters. Correct.
for people who are selling a
Right.
unit or a lot.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the member.
I don't think you need to be
accept that.
confused. I don't suggest you say very much more. You're going to kill the bill.
All right, okay. Yeah. If you allow it to go through, Mr. Chair, I'll support it.
All right. Number 2, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative, for your waiting until we have dispensed of all the other bills for this evening. From my understanding, is it not true that what you're trying to do is to protect the citizens, protect the homeowners from runaway homeowners association leaders charging anything, and at a time where you're trying to set a fee, a bar, that can be given or assessed just to receive a letter to say that you've remedied all outstanding fees. Is that correct?
So what this bill does is it assists the homeowner, and it also gives them peace and assurance that an HOA is not their enemy. It shows that an HOA is willing to work with them through mitigation before placing a lien on their property. And the second thing that it does is offers a cap of $250, whereas sometimes people who are property owners who are selling their property may pay $450 for a closing letter. This caps it at $250 if the closing letter is needed within 10 days, and an extra $50 if they want an expedited closing letter within 3 days. That's current practice now, to have an additional fee for an expedited closing letter.
All right. Mr. Williams. Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, wonderful job. I was just thinking, you're trying to put the HOAs in this discussion in the league with cosmetology, and some of the most agree. It can be tough with bills like these, but you've done a wonderful job. Unfortunately, I've listened for a while about HOAs and homeowners and the combativeness. It's very genteel of you to suggest people find out that the HOAs are not their enemies, but it's kind of tough to tell them when HOA's falling out with a homeowner and there's nothing you can do to appease them, because it becomes then more of a personality match. And I've seen them all over. It's a little frightening, and hopefully this will bring some sanity, and it's about time that this bull be caught by the horns. We started out with HOA's idea was a fantastic idea, and it just kept growing, and somehow it turned into Frankenstein. Maybe we can get it back in the bottle. But somebody mentioned a long time ago when you first stood up that they were at the appropriate time make a motion. So at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion if we ever get there.
Well, this is not the appropriate time because we have
Forget I said all that.
Number 27. Well, maybe he didn't want to speak. All right. Vice Chairman Washburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to point out lines 30 through 33, which is a very nice addition that requires that when any assessments are paid by normally an association, that they have to receive a statement from the association that those fees have been paid within 45 days at no cost to that owner, which I think is a very nice improvement, increases some transparency, and lets them know if they do have something outstanding that might be a bad surprise to them otherwise. So I think that's a nice addition to the bill.
And thank you for bringing that out. And in your package, you have a letter from one homeowner who was notified in, I believe, 2009 that she had assessments outstanding from 2006. And this would prevent that from happening.
A very nice addition.
All right, if I might ask just one, as I look through the bill, it doesn't seem to be that complicated because I've looked at these a little bit in the past years. To me, there's two main parts to it. One is that you're adding an alternative dispute resolution to have to set up a process for that, correct? Alternative dispute resolution process.
Right, it's requiring them to have that before imposing a lien. And it's left for the HOA to develop with that procedure.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with anything that I've seen in here. I mean, it takes a lot of paperwork to put things in a proper form for these folks. The only consideration I have is that $250 fee, but then I would have that problem. You know, we have a situation that with HOAs today that people who own property or units in condos or whatever, they're members of an association. It's like a mini government in itself, because everybody's expected to basically toe the line for the common good of that unit or that property or whatever, whether it's cutting grass or keeping the grass cut and like that, or doing certain things. You don't want a condo where everybody's got uniform windows and things like that, and somebody's putting smiley faces all over the condos. I mean, all over the windows. So I agree with everything that you've got, and I think you've done a pretty good job on this.
Thank you,
bill.
Mr. Chairman.
But you do want to stick to that $250.
Would you like to raise it?
No, I'd like to lower it. You know, these statement of accounts, it's pretty interesting to me how some HOAs are using these statements of accounts as a revenue generator. It doesn't cost that much. If you go to close your unit or sell a piece of property, the HOA, all they got to do is see what is owed. Has the assessments been paid? And I have found that a lot of the HOAs are using this as a revenue generator at the bottom line. That's the reason a few years ago we did the $150. But if you think the $250 is what it's going to take to get this over the finish line, then I'll do better than some of my colleagues. I won't be talking about cosmetology or foreclosing.
After speaking with Legislative Council, over the summer, and we took a look at the reason why it was vetoed in the past, this is the number the fee that they came up with, that they thought that it would satisfy all parties.
Very good. What's the will of the committee? Do we have anyone that wishes to testify? That's great news. Thank you so much. What's the will of the committee? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any further motions? Comments? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
You have this bill. And thank you. Beg your pardon? Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we have finished this meeting, and this meeting is now adjourned. Wow. To the